everyone. I'm Layne, and I am the host for this podcast, Campus Conversations. And this is our first episode of the semester. I'm joined today by Sadie, who is the Turning Point president of Vanguard's chapter. And we're just going to go over some of the stuff that went on this past week. On Monday night, there was a vigil for Charlie Kirk, where it's like candlelight, worship, prayer, and some speeches just to kind of give a memorial to him. Um, and yeah, and we're just gonna be discussing that and like what it means to be in like this political climate as a Christian at this time. So first of all, like how did the evening kind of go down, Sadie? Like what occurred?
Yeah, so to start off the evening, we had a bunch of people come out to help us set up and to find a spot in the park, which is really cool because we were able to kind of network and connect with the other Turning Point chapters. So we had representatives from Cal State Long Beach, from Fullerton, from UC Irvine, and we all shared materials amongst the different vigils that we did, which was super cool. So, yeah, following that, we went into a few speeches where I gave a speech and you gave a speech as well for opening the vigil.
Hmm.
And going from there, we lit all of the candles. We went around. We kind of made it a community thing where we lit the two ends and we had people light each other's candles. And that's where we started a time of worship where our vice president, Linda Isabella Rendon, she did two songs. She did All My Tears and Firm Foundations, which I think really resonated with everybody, especially as you said, in the political climate that we're in. So that was really, really impressive of her to do that. And then we went into a few speeches from past Vanguard students, which is so nice to hear, even some people that haven't been involved with us before. So it was nice to see that involvement. And we
Hmm.
also got our former university pastor, Mike Whitford. He gave a really amazing speech and read straight from the Bible, talking about Christians being the light of the world, which I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about. And
Yeah.
we also had City Councilman Mike Bewley come out and give a speech, which was really amazing. I think it really resonated with the audience, especially people who are voters and actively participate in the elections. I think it allowed everyone to see that they have a representative, someone that is actively voting and someone who is actively in a place of politics.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then following that, we did a closing prayer. We did a few prayers in between the night, which was very nice. And after that, we opened up a moment for people to bring flowers and whatever else they brought to the front to our memorial. So we had about 15 to 20 bouquets in there. Something that I found really compelling was that people wrote different letters to Charlie hidden inside the bouquets. So that was something that was really cool to find, but also really difficult to read on my own, finding that. And
Yeah.
so then we had another time where we had people join us in the back of the vigil, just away from the crowd if they wanted to get involved or see how God was moving through the chapter. So those
Hmm.
conversations were really, really nice to have. They were really connecting, especially in a time where people are feeling kind of fearful or kind of scared and they don't know what to do or they don't feel like they have a community. I feel like it's our job as Christians to create that community. And I think that's exactly what we did on Monday night or Tuesday night.
Yeah, that's awesome. About how many people would you say are there? Like how many people showed up?
Yeah, so I think there was around 200 to 250. We didn't exactly do a head count, but going based on of the candles that we gave out, which was pretty much all of them, and we had over 200 candles. So yeah, I'd say between 200 and 250, and it was very community oriented. We had a lot of teachers, professors, church leaders, parents, Vanguard alumni. So it was cool to see everyone come out and join together as one for one cause.
Yeah, that's awesome. What was like the highlight of some of the speeches? Like what was the general consensus of like what they were all saying? Was it just kind of like remembering his legacy or like what were they saying?
Yeah, so I'd say what resonated with everyone from a biblical perspective or a faith-driven perspective the most was what Pastor Mike Whitford told everyone was that we as Christians, in the face of what some would say is evil or just a time of hopelessness, we're called to be the light of the world and we're called to continue to share the gospel, continue to share the good news that is Jesus Christ with everybody, and especially in times like this. And I think something that was really cool in that moment as well is we didn't have light for him to read straight from his Bible. So a man came from the crowd and used his phone flashlight. So I thought that was a really cool moment. It just
Yeah.
also showed it resembled Christians being the light of the world and just shining that light on other people and sharing what we know to be true in times of hardship, in times of mourning, and just to lean on each other and not it's hard to always give people grace and to be have a faith-led approach all the time because we are human, we are sinners. So I
Hmm.
think it was nice for everyone to know that they weren't alone and that they might feel anger, they might feel just a copious amount of grief and they don't know how to deal with that. So that's something that we talked about was to try to stay positive and try to do what would Jesus do and to ask that question as well through everything that we were doing is, what would Jesus do in this moment? How would Jesus respond to these people?
Yeah. Um, what was kind of like Pastor Mike Whitford saying how to incorporate faith into politics? Like, how do we move forward, I guess, as Christians in this hostile political environment?
Yeah, so that is kind of a hot button discussion. Don't know that it should
Yeah.
exactly be, but a lot of people think, maybe the church should stay out of politics. Maybe we should intertwine our faith in politics. I know for me personally, my faith and politics are completely intertwined. I feel like in my calling, it's something to do with politics. It's to push for a political reformation and to be an activist in my community for what I believe in. And I think that that is completely intertwined with my faith. So I respect other people who have a different approach to that. What Pastor Mike was saying was that if you do have a different approach, is to lean into that faith and to not let the worldly politics completely take you over. He was more so saying that in the face of everyone, like I said earlier, seeing evil show its face to the world or people having differing opinions and really seeing that as a reason to kill, to be violent, is to not lean into that, even though it might be really easy to when you are in such a polarized environment. It's to lean into what Jesus says, how Jesus would approach these people. So he wasn't necessarily saying to disentangle the two, but that your faith should lead over your politics. And if you're someone like me where your faith and politics intertwine, to always make sure that your faith is what is completely leading you instead of seeing, the governmental side, the public policy making side of things all the time.
Yeah. Do you think that resonated with the crowd? Like when people came up to talk to you afterwards, do you think that that was like a big factor, was like their faith into the conversation?
Yeah, I think that was a huge factor in and that was our mission as well. We went into the night saying this is going to be biblical, this is going to
Hmm.
be faith driven, and our goal tonight is not to unite people in the face of having a common enemy. It's to unite people in the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I think that's exactly what we did that night. So, and also among the other speakers, the fellow Vanguard students and alumni, I think that what they were saying was very similar that we as Christians were hurt and we're grieving and we're mourning this loss, but we also cannot grieve as if we don't have hope. We have to grieve as if we know that God is real. We know that Jesus has us, and that's how we move forward. So I think, yeah, at the end, when we opened up the mic for people to come talk to us and ask us questions about how to get involved or how is God moving through the chapter, I know I spoke with one man who said that he drove from Compton to come up because he wanted to find people who were in a faith led community who believed politically leaning how he believed. And he believed that in that crowd, he felt Jesus moving. He felt the spirit in that crowd. And he felt that everyone there just had this this hope within them that God was going to get them through that. So I do think that it was a shared sentiment that
Hmm.
we're the light of the world and we're going to continue forward and that we're going to grieve like we do have hope.
How do you respond to people who like maybe criticize you or the chapter and like don't necessarily stand for everything that Charlie Kirk did? Like, how do you unite everyone in your faith?
Yeah, so that was a very good question that me and all of the board members on our chapter board were considering. We were thinking, what if people do show up that don't agree? What if people are coming here to spew hatred and they don't want to go along with our mission. That is something that
Mhm.
we definitely considered. And I'm not going to lie, a lot of us were fearful. A lot of us were scared, and political violence is on the rise, obviously. So that's something that we definitely had to consider. So I think that our approach was, especially in the flyers and when we were publicizing this event, we wanted to make sure everyone knew that this is for everyone. And that means all ages, all generations, all races, all ethnicities, wherever you stand politically or religiously, this was for everyone. Because our hope was that we would have a space to share our grief, but we would also have a space to share the gospel of Jesus Christ and kind of how God was moving in our life and in our chapter. And if that touched someone's heart who didn't believe, maybe that would bring them to Christ, or maybe that would just make them pause and consider for a moment, or even just give somebody who only lives secularly a little bit of our
Mhm.
Christian hope. So I think, yeah, that's how we got through that, was we made sure everyone knew it was for everyone. And even going through the photos after the fact, we had photos of men that were, 60, 70 years old, and at the very end of these photos we had a little girl who looked to be between a year or two and her mom. So we had everyone there, and yeah, we
Yeah.
made sure that was for everyone.
How do you personally like live out your faith in politics? And I guess you could maybe speak for the board too. Like, how do you personally move forward and intertwine, um, balancing, I guess, your faith and moving forward Charlie Kirk's legacy?
Yeah, I think that in the first couple days after the tragedy happened, me, along with many other Christians, like not only the board, but many people at Vanguard, were just completely grieved and just lost. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to move forward. And it was hard to scroll social media and just be
Mhm.
consuming all of this content that was very violent in nature, very, very attacking people's characters. And so I found myself wanting to participate or to just scrolling for hours and just consuming all of that content. And I knew that I needed to stop doing that. And I think that I can speak for many Christians around the world. I think that it was, a shot heard around the world. It was a wake up call for a lot of people
Yeah.
that we need to stop being lukewarm. We need to step into our faith and get right with God, get into our relationship with God and try to grow that. We need to spread the gospel. And that's exactly what I think Charlie Kirk did. I think his mission, above all else, was, like he said, to be remembered for his faith and to share his faith with everyone. And me personally, I also base some of my politics off of the way that he lived. I like that he intertwined all of his political beliefs, his political points, he tied them back to faith, he tied them back to verses for the most part. And that's something that I want to continue doing. I think that us as Christians, that's something that we're called to do, is to try to bring heaven to earth. And I think that's exactly what Charlie did. And that's exactly what myself, the board, and thousands, the 54,000 new Turning Point chapters are going to continue to do, is just spread faith, be true to who you are, even if you're in an environment that is primarily made for people who agree in a different way at certain schools or in certain spaces.
Yeah. Do you think your club has grown since last week? Could you kind of like touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, I our club has grown a huge amount. It is insane. It's honestly, we're still trying to grasp it. We're still trying to understand how we're going to navigate it, but above all else, it's definitely a blessing. We have,
Mm.
prior to this tragedy, we had roughly maybe 10 members that consistently came to our meetings. After the tragedy, our account on Instagram soared. We've doubled our follower account. We've had thousands of views, over 100,000 views on our account, and some of our videos are and posts are reaching upwards towards 20,000 views apiece.
Yeah.
So that's remarkable. It's really remarkable in within our chapter. And at at school and with different college students around our in Orange County, we're having people express interest that like we've never had before. We now have about 73 members that want to join, that have expressed an interest, that but it's more than just, hey, I want to know what you guys have going on. I feel called to do this. This is something I need to do for not only me, but because I feel like this is where God is leading me and I want a place in this. I want to be part of this community. And especially after the vigil, I think that showed a lot of people, this is a faith driven community. These are people who lean on each other. These are people who pray through really hard things, who look to the Bible, who look to God for answers when we don't have any. So I think that that drew a lot of people into our club, especially. I think, like I mentioned earlier as well, it's completely amazing that there's been 54,000 and counting new Turning Point
Yeah,
chapters showing up nationally. I think that
yeah,
speaks to how big this movement's getting. I think that speaks to how his legacy touched our generation and is truly growing, and it's moving people. It's moving people towards Christ. It's moving people to get more politically involved. And I think for my chapter, our chapter specifically, we are more concerned with how spiritually fed people are becoming from this, and also to mobilize voters no matter who you are, what party you are. We want you to use your right to vote. We want you to use every right that you have, especially free speech, to speak your mind, to be outspoken.
yeah. And then was it like kind of like a community oriented thing? I know you mentioned like the candles, but like can you talk more about like how it brought the community together? Like was there like a cleanup? Was there like you know, interaction among everyone that was there?
Yeah, so like I said, setting up, it really took a village to do that. I I can't do, photography. I don't know how to fold the flag. I don't know how to do certain things. So I remember just asking people, hey, I have this idea. Do you think you guys can help? Do you think you know anyone who can help us execute this idea? And every time I asked something, it was always 10, 20 people saying, I'll do it. I know someone who will do it. And I think most remarkably, I think in that space as well was that we had a youth leader that brought a soundboard and a microphone, a complete sound system for our worship, and we did not have anywhere to plug in. We had no outlets, and so um, yeah, so we had someone, the man who played guitar was able to back his truck in and use that, leave his car running the entire time and use that as a power outlet. So yeah, truly,
That's
it
crazy.
took a village
Yeah,
to set up the entire thing. I think throughout the entire thing as well, people were asking, hey, how can I help? What can I do for you? How can I make this easier on you? And they were asking that to everyone. And I think that it was such a beautiful way to see the community come together and also to meet new people in our generation that share our beliefs, as well as people who maybe chose trade, who didn't want to go to college. It's nice to connect with people that are outside of your realm or your
yeah,
scope of practice, to say. And think as well, following the entire event, we had the candles burned out so much to the point where the wax had melted. And I think that at first we looked at it and it was kind of disastrous. We were like, I don't know what to do with this. But the more that I started thinking about it, the more that I looked at the photos of the melted wax, to me it was like, it was so amazing that people stayed long enough for these big candles to get melted down. I think that
yeah,
that speaks to how desperate people needed God, how desperately
yeah,
people needed a community to mourn with. And yeah, so I looked at that. I was thinking, this is disastrous. I don't know what we're going to do. So, I walk away. I'm starting to pick up some of these flowers, some of the displays, and coming back, there was like 10 people on the floor, 10 people who expressed interest, who had helped us to set up the event, and we're all scraping the wax off the floor. They were using different cards, different knives,
yeah,
different pieces just to help scrape this wax off the floor. And I think to us as well, we wanted to leave the community cleaner than where we found it. We wanted to be able to host events like this again and to gain that rapport with the city as
yeah,
well. So it was really, really nice to have people that shared that sentiment, that wanted us to be able to have a space to do things like this, that would get on their hands and knees and
yeah,
clean on off of the concrete. And it took a long time. It took a lot of arm power, but we got the wax up, and I think that it was silly in the moment, but looking back on it, it was also a moment of worship. I think that you can turn anything into worship, and in that space that was how God was connecting people. And we were talking about our different chapters, our walks in life, where we were politically, and how we were feeling at the moment. And so I don't think anymore, oh, this is a disaster. I think this is, what is God using this for? And he used it. He used it so much to the point where I made these new connections. I have these people on social media, and I've been talking with them about future events. So I know that something good came out of that, and I think that that's
Yeah.
a testament as well to the fact that God can turn, mourning into dancing, and he can turn grief into good. And I think that if I had to summarize our entire event, I would say trying to show the community that God can turn grief into good.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned that some people dropped off like Charlie Kirk letters. Do you happen to have those?
I do. I can grab them right here. So these ones were in a red, white, and blue bouquet, and they had an American flag in them. I also want to mention as well that a lot of these flowers were handmade. They weren't just
Yeah.
store-bought flowers. I mean, sure, a few were, but a lot of people went and got different bouquets, put them together, took the time to wrap them in brown paper and ribbon, and
Yeah.
place them down. And I think that that is truly inspiring to me that people cared so much and put so much of their time and energy to do that. So
Yeah.
this is one of the letters that we had come in. So one of them says, "You will always be remembered for your courage and faith." And they're
Good.
on like American flag cardstock. Another says, "You deserved better. Thank you for everything. Churches were packed in your honor yesterday." And I think that that last sentence is something amazing to touch on as well, because
Yeah.
going to church after that Wednesday, there was no empty seats. There was so
Yeah.
many people there, and I think that a lot of people around the world can testify to
Yeah.
that as well.
I think people
And
needed that like
yeah,
reassurance for sure.
yeah. And then the last one says, "You will be missed but never forgotten. Your mission just got bigger. Rest in paradise." And I think that second sentence in there, "Your mission just got bigger," is absolutely true. I think that a lot of people took their time to mourn. They took their time to think things through. And after we not necessarily got over that period, I don't know that you can ever get over something as tragic as that. But once we got through that moment, that short moment, we all decided, this is a legacy and we need to carry this on. It's up to
Yeah.
us. And his whole mission was aimed at our generation. It was aimed at college students, and we have a responsibility to carry that on. We have a responsibility to not let this movement die. So
Yeah.
I think that all of those letters were also a summary of the mission and what we were aiming to let everyone know that evening.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's great to hear that it really brought people together in faith specifically. All right. Well, thank you, Sadie. I appreciate all that you had to say about the vigil and just everything going on. And yeah, and thank you guys for watching our first episode of Campus Conversations. And we'll see you in about 2 weeks. We're going to upload probably once every 2 weeks. And yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.